Hi, Davi here, and today we have a new episode in the art review series, and today we'll be checking out the work of Cogecha. Now we do have two pages here. We have the character design references page of this artist, but the website is actually just their X/Twitter page. Now I will be focusing more on the character design references webpage just because it's more curated, and you don't have like a bunch of random photos. I will be linking both of these pages, by the way, in the description below, so you can check out their work by clicking those links. So here we go. Let me just, I know you can actually click the photo and then just use the arrow keys to flip through. There you go. Yeah, so they do have a very unique style because obviously it's line work. They do have, when they do color their artworks, it is mostly in flat, meaning they don't paint it or render it. It has a very sort of, flat approach, flat colors, and even the way the shadows are done. There is no like it's all within like a specified shape. So you don't see any blending brushes, brush variety. It's all just filled in. It's almost like it was colored in with a bucket fill tool or a lasso selection tool or a lasso fill tool, and that's it. But what's unique about their work is the way it almost looks like they're overdoing the the lines, but it's actually part of the appeal of it. Like they do include all of the lines are not just in the contours. Can we actually zoom in? Because I feel like we're missing out on a lot. If all of the photos here on this page are kind of small, I may have to go to the X page. Oh, this one's okay. So the lines are not just in the outer sort of contours of the figure. They're, for example, when you showcase the shadow, you could have just left it as it is without the line, but they do like adding this line to differentiate the area in shadow and the area not in shadow. And in the beginning, I thought like it wasn't like bad, but I just thought it was so because no one else really does this. I think. I mean, maybe I'll be showing another artist. They're kind of new, but they do the same thing where they have a similar style where they do leave in these lines, these contour lines, but it's not just on the outer side. It's within the interior sort of shapes, right? So I just think it's interesting. Like they really showcase the sort of the kinds of lines that you think are not there that you could have just painted on top of or illustrated via, using a different bunch of values or blending stuff using a mix of hard edges or soft edges, but I don't know. A significant portion of their style is just drawing in all of these little lines. And when you look at their line work, there's not much line weight variety. There is very slight variety. For example, if you look at the outer line, it is slightly thicker than the interior lines. But both of these lines, whether on the outside or on the inside, they're pretty much like they don't really have as much pen pressure. Maybe you have just a little bit, but it's pretty much unnoticeable from a distance. So it's like almost like one fixed. I mean, look at this. But in a way, even though it looks flat, they're still able to achieve some kind of atmosphere. And I think it's because even though they showcase these lines, and even if they render it via, there's no like hatching, no blending, it's just a bunch of flats. They have, and you can't deny this, an extreme large amount of values in their work. Sorry. So even for this house, like this is where you will see the actual like, or the vast majority of this sort of value range, right? Like there's just so much stuff happening. Like for example, if you look at this part over here, like the way they color in like each pane or each wood pane of this side of the house, it does consecutively get darker as you go here. Oh, sorry. right? So that gives you that sort of distance. As things go further away from you, they tend to become more gray or lighter in general, right? So even though this thing is mostly, or it's pretty much just rendered via flats, it looks so 3D just because of the amount of values illustrated. And it's very interesting because for something like the clouds, they're very soft edged, right? So to me, it was always a hard thing to learn how to illustrate them with lines. Um, like for me, the first thing that comes to mind would be like using sort of hatching lines to kind of showcase the softness of the clouds. But for Cogecha, it's just a line, a really thin line, and 1, 2 values, and that's it. You do have a few more here, but for this huge chunk of cloud, it's just 2 values, and it's enough. And in fact, it does make it makes more sense because it is further away, and when you only have like these 2 values, it's sort of a contrast to this thing in the foreground where you have a way larger sort of value range from light to dark. So it's sort of that contrast sort of helps give you that distance, which does contribute to to this sort of atmospheric kind of vibe. Now this one's a bit different because in the background sometimes they like adding more graphical elements, so it's really just the character, and then everything else in the background is more of like an abstract sort of artwork. But again, you will see this. For example, look at the fur over here. 2 values, 1, 2. The shadow part is in kind of blue. Look at the way they show gradation. Look at the way they show gradations. I've seen this sort of character before. I'm not sure where she's from, but for her horn, the very tip is sort of red, and it does sort of blend into the skin eventually. So to show off that gradient, they could have just used a soft brush, but they decided to sort of segment each piece. Like if this is the horn, instead of showing like or using a soft brush, they sort of segment it like this. They separate each gradual gradation of value or color with the contour, and within those contours, there's a new level of like color or value that slowly shifts to a different kind of hue or color. It does take effort. It's very, but it works. It works. But it shows you that you can sort of play around with limitations, and that or those limitations can and do contribute to your style. And I think their approach is very iconic. This one's a bit more colorful. It's a bit sketchy here, but the principles are the same. There's no. It's almost like a comic way of rendering, like basic comics. But I do know nowadays for like Marvel or like DC Comics, they do like being a bit painterly when they color. But in general, when they do color, it's just flats and maybe some gradients. So they do keep it simple. But even for this artist, they don't even use gradients. If you look at the last or this piece, yeah, they did gradients, but not in the typical like soft brush or gradient tool way. They will segment it to like different chunks. I do like this one. It feels very freeing. It's kind of like a quick sketch, but I get the vibe. Everything in shadow is sort of in blue. And I think it's a great color. I think I mentioned this in a previous episode where usually shadows are more on the cooler side. You will see this in a lot of like paintings, whether digital or traditional. You will see colors like blue, violet, purple, colors within that range. Okay. So we have 0 to here. She's actually one of my favorite anime characters because I think Darling in the Franxx, the anime of this character, it's one of the first anime shows that I've really invested in or really watched. And yeah, I just like her character. She's so like freaking. She's almost like a wild being. I mean, she is basically like some kind of demon or something, but she's just weird, extremely freaking weird. But kind of hot. But again, can we zoom in? I don't know. We don't have to because yeah, look at the way they did like the highlights or the lighter parts. They will even constrain that with lines, right? And notice how even if there's not much line weight or variety, there is something there. And as I mentioned, in some pieces, some parts will have like a thicker line, just a little bit more. And they're usually like the big shapes. For example, to encompass this part of the dress, it's like one big shape. But everything within that, the lines within that are very like way thinner than the, well, not way thinner, but they're just noticeably thinner. Just think of any like architectural or engineering drawing, and whenever you see like these plans, they do have like you have to demonstrate or illustrate things via line weight, so you'll know which is more important. Like the walls definitely have thicker lines than say the furniture. It's just an easier read, and you're able to sort of understand what you're seeing. And I think you're seeing the same thing here. And I think it's even more important because they're not using any other techniques. They do like use showing off number one the lines, but number two the flats, and that's pretty much it. And it's a very interesting sort. Oh, let me just see how they do the eyes. Okay, even the highlight of the eye has a line around it, that white part. Okay, can I hit P? Or I want to zoom in just a little bit. Oh, we can't. Sorry. But I'm sure if you go to their X page or Twitter page, you will be able to. You can zoom in. Even the shadows, it's almost like, you know how you paint with watercolors, and when you do say paint, well, add your brush stroke, in the edge of that stroke, you will see like a slight bleed where the water sort of accumulates. You do sort of get that vibe here a bit. Oh, it's a lot more direct. There's no gradients. It's just like a flat. But it's interesting seeing the like these lines. You know, I think it looks cool. And it shows you that you can sort of break rules. I mean, there are no rules in art as much, or like really strict rules, but there are like standards, right? For example, for anime, the pieces that do get the most attention, they tend to have a certain, like they're usually rendered in a certain way or painted in a certain way. But I think, I mean, that's great. It looks good, but I think it's so like when a standard is too strong or really popular, if you have a different technique that's very sort of away from that, I think you have it's very risky, but you have the possibility to just stand out even more, even way more than like the higher sort of set standard types of artworks. And I think Cogecha, I think it's I can't well, maybe Rolua, let me just write their name. Rolua has a little bit of this where they do like showing some of these lines, right? But the fact that I can really mention them, it's just not a very common way of doing things, but it's very possible. And I think this artist is a good proof of that. So let's look at more stuff here because they do have quite a few pieces. Some of them are more like solo, and then some they do add like a background. Now for this one, I do think they're using, just my guess, a photograph, and then they use some kind of filters, maybe the cutout filter in Photoshop or something, and then they adjust things from there. I don't know. That's my guess. Let's just go to their X page because maybe we can see some more recent ones. It is this one's kind of cool. Let me just hit A. Oh my, let me just zoom in. Yep, they do. You're gonna have to. Oh my, Jesus! Look at the amount of stuff here. I mean, they could be using some kind of cutout filter as well. And maybe they paint stuff first in flats or color stuff in flats, and then they apply some kind of filter to help them. And I don't even know what the process is, but it's just a very unique. Oh, they do have some noise added in the end, so I think it makes sense because you gotta have something. Given that everything is just flat, like there's no rendering, no blending, you want to have a little bit of like teeth in your work, and it's kind of weird to just use like an RGB or shift effect or a blur effect. So adding that noise just adds a bit more like teeth or tooth or teeth your illustrations. Even the way the light sort of source here was illustrated, they even used a freaking line to do that. They added this sort of contour line on the outside. And then you can tell this white over here, it's under a color dodge maybe, or a high hard light maybe, layer mode. This patch of light here is also, it has some line to sort of contain that. And they don't color the lines. They do leave it as black. And the pen they're using does have some texture. And I'm noticing even it has some bleeds in some parts. So they have like some kind of fine point sort of pen that they're using for this, right? Now this one is all in black. Let me just zoom out. I think I'm too zoomed in. So they're in a bus, it looks like. Or a taxi maybe. But look at that. It's so freaking cool. Yeah, I think Rolua was the only one who's kind of similar to this. Although Rolua still likes to use a bit of like painting techniques, like blending a little bit here and there. But they're not very heavy with the line work as much. Unlike Cogecha, they just go all the way. So let's see. So this is Sailor Moon maybe. I know it's like based on an anime, right? It's a very famous sort of thing. Oh, I want to check this one out because the background is sort of kept simple. If you zoom in, you don't see noise texture, but I do see a bit of blur. And I think there's a little bit of RGB shift going on, but it has some kind of blur effect. But it's sort of in a layer mode, or it's the opacity is like set. Like it's basically a duplicated like flat version of the whole thing. You lower the opacity and then you mix or merge both. Because there's sort of this fuzzy, glowy feel. Look at that. Yeah, again with the inks, they do like adding those sort of, or you're using that sort of natural looking pen. Because you can achieve those like bleeds. It just adds a bit of that natural vibe to your work. Given that everything is going to be colored or rendered this way, in flats, adding those like ink lines for your line work, it just, it makes it look more handmade. Let's check out some more stuff here. Let's go further. Oh, this one's pretty cool. The freaking looking over the window. Oh, this one's kind of interesting. Can we zoom in? Oh, we can't. Oh shit, we can. Oh dude. Like these are really big freaking names. Oh, look at that tongue. Oh my god. So maybe it's like maybe in public they're like super nice, but they're kind of showing you that in the dark there's like a different side to her, more hotter side to her. Oh yeah. And look at the colors too. Like if you go further down, it's like pastel, like pink sort of skin tone type. It feels like it's summer, right? Like it's bright, like you're in the beach. But the further you go up, it's more like red light district types of colors and vibes. Like, oh, it's a lot more. On the lower side, warmer colors. Upper side, cooler colors. Look at those eyes. Oh, I love the eyes here. Interesting. For the pupils, they do have lines, obviously. And they're actually varying the line width a little bit. It does get more squiggly in some parts. But there are parts where they're using, like, for example, these parts over here. Like, they're not using a line to encompass that. For example, this part over here, it's just a shape. There is no, like, line contour to encompass that. So there are times where, I guess for the eyes, for this one, well, they'll just paint something. But it's still flat, but there's no, like, line over it. For example, for this sort of reflective vibe, this blue thing, it's kind of on its own. It's on its own, like, layer mode, I think. Maybe color dodge or something, or overlay. But notice, there is no line to encompass it. So you will see some difference there. I really like the eyes. It's so like Oh, I love how in the center you see this sort of teal color, but there are like 4 arrows. That's so freaking cool. I like how they made it the thing, when it comes to anime art. Like they really like showcase. They're very creative with how they render. Like you don't even have to render eyes this way or illustrate them this way, but there's just something about just having fun and just showing a bit of the character through the eyes, right? This one's interesting. They did add this yellow sort of line. There's still a black line, but it's hard to see because it's been painted over mostly with this sort of yellowish thing. It has that sort of subsurface scattering vibe. Oh shit, there's some noise, but I do see a little bit of RGB shift effect. But it's very minimal, almost hard to see. Wow, I think this may be my favorite piece. Aside from this one's pretty cool too, but this one does make me feel things, right? Oh, I love the earrings too. Freakazoid. This is too much for me, but at the same time, when I see this, I'm like, it's kind of hot. It's freaking hot. Lots of piercings. Is that a pin? Interesting. Look at that. Oh my god. I don't see a lot of sketches. Oh, this is like a flat version. The lines are there, but it doesn't have the colors yet. But they've pretty much figured out everything here for the most part. Probably takes a while to do this, and then once they're done with this, like what's the change? Oh, we can do this. Let's go back and forth. Oh, so once they have these lines, they have other lines within those, the interior lines. And you'll notice, if you look at the interior lines, pretty much every sort of line within the major contour lines, it's much thinner than the outer lines or the main lines. Oh, interesting. Let's zoom in. Oh, it feels like they did. Oh, they did. They did color some of these interior lines. And it's, red? It's not for all of it though. Most of it. Oh, there's another artist named Daisuke something. Daisuke. Oh, I'm forgetting their name. But hopefully, they're also a famous artist who does flats, lines plus flats sort of approach. And they like drawing this girl in like a hoodie, and she's almost always like surrounded with abstract elements. Sometimes she's in a room, sometimes she's in her like study area. Like there's always like a set palette to their style, but yeah. So maybe hopefully hopefully I'm remembering their name right. Daisuke something. Or maybe it's their tag name somewhere. Let's just explore one more. Is this, this is okay, but oh, look at the chair. Very simple. Very cool. Oh, look at the trees. I think it's mostly like it's almost like a custom shape. Look at the background, the buildings. It's almost like abstract art. Okay, we have like a beach lady here. Wait, you know what? I think there's more. Let's just go further down and see what. Wait, how many subs do they have? Because I feel like they're very popular. Yep, 264 followers. This one's okay. We do see a lot more figures here. Yep, the RGB shift is definitely there. Let me just open this new tab. Look at that. Oh, look at the eyes here. It's unlike this one where they did spend some time, or where some of the lines are not there to encompass the shapes. Here you will see in the pupils, everything is within some kind of line. RGB shift. We have some noise added in the end. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And their architectural stuff is pretty cool too. You'll see this a lot in the backgrounds. They do. So these are some spots. I know why they shared it, because it looks good. Like they could be their own little paintings. Like if you have such a big image, you could like sell this as a print. You have like the full image, which itself could be a print, but you can like share like snapshots, like 1x1 versions of a certain parts of your image, because they have like their own compositional thing, right? And they can stand as its own sort of shot. Amazing. Amazing. Oh, look, this one's a lot more. Oh, maybe this one. It's a lot more lively just because of the colors. I like the brightness. We'll see this one too. Oh, I guess the line work is a little, it's kind of squiggly like Yoneyama Mai. A little bit. This one's taking a while to load. Oh, we'll see this one. It's from their phone. I think it's the same character, but just different like shots of it. Damn. I like it. Oh, this one has a mask. So it's for something like a poster. Let me just I like it. It's a lot more like simplified, but I like it. Oh, RGB shift effect. Freaking cool. Excuse me. Oh my freaking lord. So we have like not goddess, but like a queen or a princess. Again, look at the background. It's very like graphic designy, abstract art, but look at the hair though. It's kind of on top of the chair flowing down to the back. Freaking insane. And even the way they did the chair, it's almost as impressive as the actual like character. The hair, her jacket, even the what do you call this? Like not frills. The what do you call this? It's like a under. It's a kind of like underwear for women that have. Shit, I'm forgetting. Like it's not vintage. It's like where you have these sorts of like designs. Christ, I'm forgetting it. Is it lacing? Is that the word? Oh my god, it's so fucking over. Oh yeah, you have to zoom in because that's where you see the glory, the power. Now for this one, the line weight is very obvious. Look at the interior lines, very thin. The main lines are very thick. RGB shift all the way. Noise texture all the way. And she's a smoker too, so she kind of has that rebellious bad. Oh, and tattoos, kind of hot. So I think we'll end the review here because I think we've discussed pretty much the essence of their style. And I do think they sell their books, or at the very least, it's Cogecha, yeah, and they're featured in a lot of like different things. So hopefully you enjoyed their works because this is crazy. Okay, it's taking too long to load, but yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the work because I know it's a bit different from what I normally do on the channel. I mean, this one's a bit more painted. Let me just zoom in. Did they do this? I think they did. But it shows you that even if you shift style or your style just a bit, in this case, there's hardly any like lines, right? No line work. It's mostly like painted, very opaque looking. It shows you that it doesn't matter what your style is. If you're good with like the fundamental essential stuff, you can pretty much do anything, right? But obviously their favorite thing would have to be the whole line work thing, but they can paint kind of like this. And even this is still simple. They're not using like so many brushes. They're using just a couple, but it looks great. So yeah, that's it for this art review. I'll see you in the next... I'll see you in the next one. Bye!